I don't think Grace would.
Yeah, and there we go, an instant pick for Grace on the team of side of ASN.
There might be some silences from Catherine that might get through. Okay, so
Sorry,
honestly,
I have some technical issues.
I'm not sure what happened to my dear analyst, but I'm back right now, so I'll just continue talking. So we did mention about a really great weakness coming out from Tezaboy on that roam roll, and that is the timing of Crucible. Like Rubber Monkey had said, he goes in for the Arcane Passage, he bright bulwark, but then he kept missing the Crucibles, those very crucial Crucibles against Celeste's Core Collapse, and it happened twice in the game. So, for the side of Brenchong, they are just looking and capitalizing on those tiny mistakes coming out from ASN in the previous match, and that was a tiny mistake that they capitalized on, and that was what they gave Brenchong that first match. So coming into the second match, if they do not crucible Catherine's blast tremor, then it will spell trouble for the side of ASN.
Hey,
I'm not sure if Rubber Monkey is back, but I'll just continue. I'll just go through draft again. We are gonna see another reset on draft. Draft client may be broken at this point in time, but I don't know why, but things aren't quite happening. But as we go through the player history of all the players right now, just a quick run through ASN, like we saw in yesterday's game, when ASN was up against that of Elite 8. They did play a rather interesting comp coming out. They did ban out that Batiste against Elite 8 because Official Hein and Elite 8 do favor their Batiste quite a lot. And of course, with that Batiste ban, they did pick out that Baron, Grace, and Saga taking that game as well. So we did see Grace, Tezabot and that Grace, and he's really, really and Grace is really, really strong. I mean, Tezabot on that Grace. Oh, really? Okay, I'll try to reconnect then.
Hello, and while Luxuria is trying to...
All right, there you go.
Okay, so there was some technical issue on our side. Both of us can't hear each other. Yeah, but I think we are good right now, right?
Yep, I can hear you fine. I was wondering, like, what was happening. Yeah.
But looking at the draft here, we have Celeste back on the game for Brenchong, their comfort pick, and we have that Catherine to actually handle the... I like that Catherine pick right now to actually handle the Baron pick from ASN. So he can be just up to Baron's face, up there, just controlling Baron, and also tanking up the shots from Samuel with that Drifting Dark. That shield from Catherine is going to do a lot of work right here. And if by any chance ASN just forgot that there's a glaive on the side of Team Brenchong, and then they're going to have to face with a lot of issues with glaive suddenly just rushing in and bursting down any of their heroes and catching them by surprise. So they have to be really careful on that.
Yeah, I really like the team comp coming up from the side of ASN at this point in time. They have a very good early game, and of course, they scale very well into the late game with that Grace and of course Baron. And as for the early game, we know that Samuel, once he gets his Drifting Dark, he is going to put out a lot of damage, and that is that's going on for ASN. Problem with ASN's team comp is that as compared to that of Brenchong, they do not have the one pick-out hero. They must quite engage as a team. We need the Baron to come in. They have the poke, like that of the side of Brenchong into the first match. They have the poke from Samuel. They had, like in Brenchong picked out the Celeste and of course the Baron. For the second match, we have the Samuel and of course that Baron as well. So, with that, they have a similar team comp as compared to Brenchong in the first game. Problem with that is that the side of Brenchong in this current game, they have very good engage and initiation with that glaive, with triple stun comp. A Merciless Pursuit or maybe a Glaive into Afterburn into Merciless Pursuit, into Core Collapse. And they can quickly eliminate a single hero coming out from the side of ASN, of course, but then we cannot forget that, Grace can Holy Nova to just stun anybody out that comes close to any of her carries. Then again, it is really just down to execution, don't you agree? If ASN do not make Crucible mistakes in this round, then they will definitely have this round forcing into a third game. The problem is that I'm just worried. Like I said before, I'm not sure if you heard me, but Grace, Tesla Boy has got a Crucible mistakes and a big weakness in the use of Crucible. And if Tesla Boy is unable to block out Blast Tremor coming out from Catherine, it will spell doom for the side of ASN.
And here in this game, we can actually see a flip of strategy, because at the first match, you will see ASN controlling the game, trying to end the game and pushing it all towards the base. And what Brenchong had to do was to just play on the back foot, take note that the crew can come in at any time and just be cautious, and then at the late game come all out and burst in. But right now in this match too, we have to see that Brenchong take the role of what ASN did to control the entire game, because Catherine and Glaive will have to just be that front line, that body block, and to just seize the opportunity to take down any of the heroes they can actually manage to. Whereas ASN have to play really careful, just know their environment, know the conditions, know when the Glaive is going to engage, understand that Catherine and the team of Brenchong's strategy is to just come into you to catch you out and play by that rule, and they should be fine. So we will just see, like you said, it comes down to executions, who understand the strategy of their composition better, and who execute them much more flawlessly compared to the other team.
Yeah, we did see Glaive being picked up for the side of Infamous just in yesterday's match. And with that, Uni was on that Glaive, and Uni decided that it was a better choice to match the Baron stat for stat, and that was how Uni actually.
Sorry, that was Quincy.
Quincy. Sorry. Yeah, it was Quincy. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and that's actually no worries. And that's actually a really interesting strategy, because when you play VG, you tend to stick with your team, and the engage comes on like a 3-to-3 man. But what Quincy did was he came all the way from the back, so it was like kind of showing the other team that the Glaive was hiding from behind. But what he did was he came from a surprise attack right from behind on himself, and that started the whole engagement and gave them that advantage over the entire team fight. So I'd really like to see Brenchong do the same thing, as in the Glaive would not play from the back line, but he would find an perfect opportunity to come up from places where your opponent don't expect you to come out from. And that's what the Glaive does best. Instant burst immediately to the opponent.
We did see as well Glaive being picked out into another Baron just yesterday as well. But then what happened then was that the Glaive did not match stat for stat into that Baron. And then Baron was able to burst Glaive down, because Glaive just did not have the damage onto Baron. Anyways, we are right into the fold at this point in time. And let's see whether or not Mr. Jim on this Glaive can pull out any special attack or surprise attack. Casting alongside me, we have I Request a Duo. How was your break?
Good, nice and refreshed. I wasn't able to get my popcorn, however, but I won't be needing it, because I'll be talking a lot through this, especially in the early game. Looking at the side of Brenchong, they have a very aggressive lineup there. Even you could say on the side of ASN, with that, Samuel is going to work fairly well if he's not AFK. After all that draft resetting, I think Samuel just fell asleep at this point. There we go. There's the pause. A bit early. I'm not sure if we will go into a pause, however. Okay, they are there. Things are good, and things are going. So, looking at these two team comps so far, both teams have their good late game heroes. Like you've got, once again, we're seeing Celeste and Baron in the same game. Not on the same team this time, but we do have them in the same game. However, even Samuel should be quite strong throughout the late game. But I think, as you have mentioned before, once Samuel hits that level 2 is already considered a bit of a power spike, because he has the Drifting Dark and the empowered I'm not going to call it is Malice and Verdict, right? I was getting it wrong yesterday for some reason, but Tezza Boy going in there with an amazing steal might be able to pick up the first blood. They do. They get caught out in the core collapse, however, but Mr. Jim not going to engage on that. The Afterburn was ready, but he's just going to decide not to. Instead, going for Aeon with a massive Afterburn. Going to have the help of Cincy 1, but it's going to be Boy jumping in and try to save them, but not going to be able to. So Mr. Jim with some good thinking there. Of course, if Mr. Jim is going to have to face off against this Baron in the early game, it's going to help out to get that just bit of a lead on the enemy laner there.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do see Chingy coming up for the early game engage, but then just not quite in time to save Aeon 222's ass. And we did see, and we did say earlier on, and even in yesterday's match, that Glaive is just so good into Baron in the early game because Baron has got no answer to Glaive's Afterburn. So then that is why, generally Glaive is the accepted truth that it is just so much stronger against Idris, and even that of Baron in the early part of the game. And of course, we have Chingy on this Samuel as well. They are fighting over the Ancient Treant right now. Sync 1 is taken really low, but Majin is there to save Sync 1.
But not quite, as Sync 1 does fall, and Majin's going to be the next one, and you can see this Grace doing a lot of work on their own, not being the damage dealer, but definitely helping get these kills secured. You can see Chingy waiting around for that Drifting Dark to come up, and it is available right now, but instead of going for the Glaive, they're going to go for the farm. They have left Boy in a bit of a position, and they are going to fall, but I think Boy, knowing it's all for the better cause, Chingy was able to get those backs and go back to base. They didn't go for more, surprisingly, even though Glaive have rotated up with that Celeste, and Celeste hasn't rotated too much into their own jungle right now, just because of that heavy presence from Grace so far.
Well, yeah, I mean, Grace and Samuel, they are very good early game hero. There is one thing about Samuel that the side of Brenchong can take advantage of, and that is when Celeste actually hits the level 8 and then can outzone and outpoke that of Samuel, if not in the Drifting Dark. That is one of the conditions. Samuel, let's look at Aeon taken down to half health.
Yeah, and it's going to be Aeon, the first one to fall. However, Boy making good work onto that Glaive, picks up a kill, and is trying to follow up with Majin, but Chingy isn't quite there with them. Is going to put the Malice and Verdict shots down, but doesn't have the empowered, I guess, Drifting Dark at the moment. It is up now, so I take that back because Majin, he isn't even going to need it, just going to do one of those Corrupted Genius? Or was it Evil Genius?
Corrupted Genius.
Corrupted Genius. I'm thinking Evil Genius, which is a pro team of sorts. But going to use that Corrupted Genius, able to pick up a kill. And it's a very scrappy start, and it's why I said we'd be expecting between these two teams. I mean, Samuel on the side of ASN, but what I didn't count into that, I didn't account for the Grace at that time. And I apologize for it because Grace is doing a lot of work so far in helping secure these kills, actually holding 3 of those 5 kills. So supports need kills, man, and we'll call it kill secure.
I mean, for Grace, it's just so weird because her early game is just so strong. And when I play Grace, I like to start out with a weapon blade as a first item pickup, with boots, or if not defense, or even double weapon blade. It is just to fully utilize how strong your early game can be and is. So as a Grace, I usually score first blood, whether or not it's for me or my team, but it's usually going to be on me. And that is the power of Grace. Grace is just so strong in the early game. And then what happened?
Oblivion already up, and is going to drop onto Majin, help them secure a kill, and it's left up to Cincy 1 and Mr. Jim to defend this one. Luckily, those Heliogenesis proving well for them. If they get too close, it will also be up to Mr. Jim to go in with the Afterburn and try hit someone under turret. But right now, I think ASN just trying to push this wave in. They might back off after or not. If Boy going to go in deep, Mr. Jim going to hit Chingy back, but Chingy's in the Drifting Dark, trying to put shots down on turret and more so onto Mr. Jim. It's going to be Majin joining up with them once again. And you can see even in item builds on the side of Brenchong, they're not worried about defense. Both teams are really going for attack. They want to have control of this early game. You know, for the side of Brenchong, they need to do it Well, it's actually more so for the same reasons. They're both trying to get, for the side of Brenchong, they want Celeste to be that late game hero, and they want a good transition into the mid game for that. And then ASN obviously going for it because they have that Baron on the team that they really need to take control of this early game. And I think also utilizing the early game potential both teams have.
Well, yeah, definitely. But there is one thing though. The side of the side of Brenchong, they are again making the same mistakes that they are. They have such a strong engaged comp, and yeah, besides engaging, they are just playing really passive. And before that fight broke out, oh, we do see Mr. Jim going in.
And it's going to be Tezza Boy reacting to that one, jumping in, uses the Holy Nova to get the knock-up, but it's not going to help secure the kill just yet. It does deter them, and you can see so far what you were talking on. You were touching on how Brenchong is playing maybe a more passive style. It's a bit more reactionary, as they're not making too many of the engages themselves, and they're more just reacting to what ASM throw at them. Like right now, with the Oblivion dropping down, there's going to be Drifting Dark, go through with it. It's great, stuck onto turret. Ion Cannon going to drop down. Will it pick up the kill onto Catherine? And it does. It's going to force Blade to have to back. He's very low on energy as well as health, and since he won left to defend this turret on his own. However, Tezzaboy is quite low at this point, but we did talk about Tezzaboy not being afraid to go in and put that life on the line for objective for the team. So we might see that happen here. However, Mr. Jim making his rotation back up now, and will he catch anyone out with Afterburn? Will he check the brush right now? It's Tezzaboy sticking around, and they're just going to push him back. So, you know, a bit more aggression would also help this Catherine, who needs to get those Captain of the Guard stacks, sitting at 9 at the moment. And I mean, it's up to 10, and before it was just over 1 per minute, and you really want to be, I mean, it is a bit of a bold statement to say 2 per minute, but that definitely puts you in a good spot, especially moving into the late game when you get those 2 stacks of armor and shield per every stack of Captain's Guard.
Well, yeah, I mean, for 2 stacks a minute, it's not far-fetched, it's not far cry. You can't quite get 2 stacks a minute, and I think that is like the optimum, the standard, the golden standard for Catherine. But before that, I was about to say that, you know, in the previous game, Majin wasn't utilizing Grace to its fullest potential. I mean, we did see now Grace is sitting on 3 kills and 3 assists, whereas in the previous game, Majin was just in the back line, just playing very passive as Grace, not understand the full potential of Grace, whereas you see Tezzaboy just being so very aggressive on this Grace, not afraid to go in, not afraid to front lines and soak up the damage coming out from the side of ASN Esports, and I think from Brenchong, and I think that is that's, you know, giving them the wins.
And we see Mr. Jim going in with the Afterburn. There's the follow-up with the core collapse, but no real kill confirming there. It is a bit of a shame. They have the CC chain, they're just not able to get onto the targets they want to or position themselves in the way they want to, because ASN have such a strong front line with Baron jumping in there and Samuel finishing it off onto the Celeste, getting the kill, forcing Mr. Jim away. He's just going to back. He's not even going to try save that turret. They're going to let the minions finish it off. And ASM probably going to turn their attention to this gold mine, which is full at the moment, and start to take that lead into the mid game. And this is the transition we were talking about. It looks like Glaive is going to take a peek. Might go for the steal. There's the Solar Storm coming through. Tezzaboy with a Holy Nova knockup. Glaive going in there with the Afterburn, manages to get it. He will fall, however, but it's slowing down the progression of ASN at the moment, which ASN, as the same as last game, have shown a lot of control of the early to mid game kind of transition.
Well, yeah, there is one thing. We must see the difference in playstyle between Aeon on this Baron and, of course, you know, Mr. Jim on his Baron. We did see Aeon being very aggressive as well. So that is one thing for Baron, because you must know when your power spikes are. Oh, we do see Mr. Jim going up for that kill on Aeon. Might be able to get
able to find him. He does follow up with Afterburn, and there's a clean swing around. Not such clean speech, but he definitely finishes valve quicker than I could.
Definitely, that was clean card indeed. Throwback to jokes. Throwbacks to jokes. Clean card. But anyways, we do see though, the side of ASN, they know how to push their potential. They know how to push their weapon spikes, oh, we do see Mr. Jim going down very low.
And there's going to be the Oblivion, but Chingy might not be able to get out of that one. There's going to be the Divine Intervention saving him, and Divine Intervention twice because there's the Echo up right now, and Chingy needed it because if he didn't have it, he'd definitely be dead right there. It's going to be Tezboy and Aeon following up for the kills. Cincy won so low, but Majin also quite low. Aeon going to use jump jets once more, trying to find this kill so badly, but Catherine is going to be tanky enough, has the Storm Guard to get out of there. And helps just, I don't even know at this point, you know, ASN, and you were talking about how aggressive this Baron is being played, and it's how Baron should be played for the most part, because we talked about you want to be using your jump jets and you get the double auto attack off once you land, which otherwise, you know, we talked about how his auto attacks are quite slow. So, you know, you really want to utilize that, and I think that ASN are doing a great job as well as utilizing the grace that they have for their engage, and it's just working out so well so far, but we'll have to see whether Brenchong can turn this one around, because there's a lot of damage coming out from the likes of that Celeste, as we saw dropping down onto Samuel before, so there's potential of a comeback here.
Oh yeah, Minion Candy is used. Majin is going in for the Merciless Pursuit, and let's see if they will engage or they will just back up.
Well, it looks like ASN have control once again, but since he won with the range on those Heliogenesis, is able to keep most of ASN away for now. It's just a matter of time before ASN find that right team fight, the right opportunity to dive onto Brenchong. But if Brenchong can pull something out, if maybe they can just win one team fight, possibly coming up to Kraken when it's really crucial, they might have a chance to turn this around.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the goal difference between ASN and Brenchong. There is not much goal difference, probably a 3K in favor of ASN Esports. They need to slowly and, of course, definitely snowball this even further. Just, oh god, Tezboy is taken really low, and Silence wasn't blocked out as well. I mean, there is no need as well, since there is no engage happening. Chingy might be
face check for push, but luckily manages to block out the Afterburn. Gonna follow up with the Oblivion that gets blocked out on the side of Brenchong, and Majin going in for the stun, but there's no real follow-up there, and Brenchong, this is their problem right now. ASN are the ones who, so far, when they dive in, they've been able to pick up kills, and we can see it related in the kill feed here with 12 kills over to the side of ASN and 4 on the side of Brenchong. Brenchong just need to find these targets and find the positioning that they want, and I believe that relies so heavily on Mr. Jim landing these afterburns correctly, but you see again Crucible out, but he's managing to land the damage. There's going to be Fountain on the side of Brenchong, but it's not going to be enough to save the glaive as Baron managed to pick up a kill, but Celeste does not want to go in a 1v1, or I should say a 2v2 against the Baron, and Grace right now is a bit low on energy as well, and you can see now picking up that Void battery. Before was just sitting on the energy battery, and it's definitely tough when it comes to energy consumption when you're trying to do your best with zoning out the enemy, but then you run out after putting quite a few Heliogenesis down around the place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, your Void battery is quite useful. I mean, it's not even quite useful. It is one of the most important things for Celeste, because as you are zoning, you are not just using your Helios to just do damage. You are going to be using your Helios to zone out, to just poke out the enemies even before a proper engage happens. And then if you do run out of energy midway and you can't quite commit to a fight, and whereas Mr. Jim and Majin wants to be in the center of the fight, wants to be, you know, in their faces, and when you cannot do that to provide the backline support, then your team will suffer because of your energy issues. So I'm glad she did pick up that Void battery. And now as we are creeping in the late game, we are 15 minutes into game. This is just down to how Sync1 and Celeste and Mr. Jim is going to play. And as you said earlier on, it is down to Mr. Jim's Afterburn.
Yeah, it's going to be Mr. Jin engaging with that Afterburn. A lot of damage coming down from the Heliogenesis, but it's going to be responded by with the Ion Cannon. And this time, ASN actually being forced to back out of this one. And these were the crucial team fights I was talking about, that Brenchong might be up to win, and they might be able to capture the Kraken. They have the damage to do so, but whether ASN can respond to that quick enough, they're moving up to lane. They're not even paying attention to the fact that crack could be getting taken, and they just let it happen. I mean, in saying that, there wasn't too much. They don't have war treads yet. They do have tier 2 boots for most of them, and I believe Samuel does as well. Yeah, so all of them on their team had those boots. Samuel, it wasn't up, but in that situation, Brenchong did an amazing play there to really push them off, and especially on Cincy 1's part of having that the heliogenesis and just seeing in that backline. But you do give credit to Mr. Jim for being able to dive in there and put out the damage needed as well. So they had this Kraken, they had this opportunity, but what can they do with it, and what can ASN do to respond? It's going to be Mr. Jim once again diving in. Solar Storm follows up, but misses. Chingy backing off from that one, drops to Oblivion, it gets blocked out. However, Tezebo going low gets in there, but the kill was going to go over to Baron, picking up that glaive, and they're going to chase down Majin, who's just getting swamped by these jungle creeps. And Crystal Sentry. There's going to be the ace as Baron finds the kill onto Celeste, and they should be able to clean up this Kraken. But that is, I believe, 2 turrets? Or was the first turret? Or yeah,
that was 2 turrets for the side
of Brenchong's. However, ASN pushing down this lane, they are looking for at least 1 turret in return.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely going to get this turret, none. There is no doubt about it. Just look at the amount of damage coming out from Aeon on that Baron. Look at Aeon's build. He does have the reflex block. He do not have the Aegis like we were talking about. Aegis just spends so much money on Aegis. You just need a reflex block. Just 1 good reflex block with your jump jets. I think you can block out a lot of CCs coming out from the opposing team anyways. So he does have the reflex block. He has a tension bow, and of course he picked up the tension bow as second item, and we did see.
Grace is going to suffer from face checking that bush and going to use the war treads to actually get out of that one, but it's going to re-engage. Boy not afraid at all. There's going to be fountain popped on the side of Brenchong, however, and they're going to be able to pick up the kill on Glaive. These are the kind of plays that opened up when Boy plays this aggressive support roam for the side of ASN, and Aeon and Chingy are able to follow through with it. And it really was making this Baron work so much for the side of ASN, where we saw it previously on, I believe, Brenchong's team with Mr. Jim, but it was just too passive there. And you can see how it's just the siege potential they have right now, and Boy all up in their face. It means they're not able to get back to Aeon, but they might pick up the kill on Boy if they follow through. There's going to be the Solar Storm hitting and the Divine Intervention used on Grace herself, and they're just going to back off from this one for now. They should be careful, however. Some good vision, some key vision at the moment put down by the side of Brenchong, and we noticed that before, that Miss Majin doing a very good job at vision control throughout even the previous match.
Well, yeah, I mean, vision was what that won them the previous match, and it on top of the vision as well, it is just engaged in the previous match, of course, capitalizing on the mistakes of ASN as well, won them the first game. But then I do see ASN can clean this up, can clear up this game, or rather end this game in a rather quick fashion, because they do have the amount of damage. Granted, Chingy is kind of starting to follow on that damage. He did go for the Eve of Harvest, Frostburn, and of course the Broken Myth. So he has got more damage as compared to Spaghetti's Samuel yesterday. But problem with that is that, and I see the problem with Mr. Jim, and like Robert Monkey said, yesterday QC on this Glaive, what he did was, besides matching stat for stat, he did as well spring up out of nowhere to just engage onto the Glaive, instead of just, being in the front lines, instead of just trying to go in front. From the front, he did come in from the back, and that was what that QC did for the side of Infamous when he was up against a Baron. And of course, Mr. Jim can do the same thing. They are going to go for it and engage right now.
And we see ASN using the Crucible early on to engage on that one. There's going to be the Divine Intervention coming out from Boy on that Grace, keeping Chingy alive, and Aeon jumping over the wall with the Ion Cannon following through. And there's a lot of Heliogenesis down as well. So Crystal Sentry, they need to be careful. It's going to be Mr. Jim jumping onto Aeon with that Afterburn, and Chingy trying to just keep his team alive, able to back off from there. You can see Boy right now being that front line. They're finally able to defeat that Crystal Sentry, and Boy so close to stopping Cincy 1 from that recall. And ASN obviously going to turn their attention straight to Kraken. They have the damage to do so, but will the side of Brenchong be able to get to this Kraken in time to respond. You can see Glaive fairly close by. I believe he got caught out by Flare, and ASN deciding to bail on this Kraken right now.
Yeah, whether or not they bail is another thing, but Aeon 222 is really low at this point in time, and they should not continue this Kraken. There is no reason for them to. They are just going to pot back. They are just going to be sad. But as compared to the previous game, this game, ASN just looks so much stronger because firstly, they have the good early game come with that Samuel and that Grace pickup. And then secondly, of course, they have Aeon 222 for that late game. So at the end of the day, at the end of the day, they have a very balanced team comp overall. They scale well from the early game into the late game. So anyways, we do see the next fight will be happening around the Kraken, and whoever that scores a kill or even two, Mr. Jim might be caught up by Tezzaboy at this point in time. Afterburns to get away, punting Tezzaboy away.
Would almost say Tezzaboy getting caught out by Mr. Jim. Tezzaboy too often face checking those brushes and doing it once again. Forced to use the ward treads out of there and is already fairly low. Might have to use the fountain early, and they do. And this is a bad situation for ASN. Now Brenchong have the man advantage. There's going to be the ion cannon dropping. Mr. Jim is low on energy, but ASN are in a similar situation. At least Chingy is going to have to back off. Aeon not going to go check that brush. It does have vision in it, so he would be caught out, but I'm worried that they're not even deciding to contest for this Kraken.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times when Kraken is on the line, ASN just kind of screw up a lot of their engagement, especially Tezzaboy. He goes in, face checks, gets really low, allows Brenchong to pick up that Kraken. I mean, the only way now Brenchong can quite win the game is really just through Bren Connor. If not, then picking up the Bren Kraken, right? Because honestly, there is no way. When Mr. Jim do go in, just looking at his items, he has got nothing on Aeon 222. Aeon can just jump jets away, and then after that, just follow up with two basic attack, and Mr. Jim will have the back. And just look at the energy consumption coming out from Afterburn as well. And if Mr. Jim is constantly using Afterburn as a disengage, as a tool to run away and disengage, he is going to face a lot of problems in engagements.
An ASN who had such a strong start, and even in the kill count already, and gold lead about 6k or 5k gold ahead with 51.7k, but we'll leave those stats for a moment as they do engage in that final, what could be fight, and it's going to be Aeon in the middle of Mr. Jim trying to get through. Tezzaboy with the divine intervention, it might hold him out long enough. He goes for the echo and gets the second divine intervention off, managing to save his life. Kraken is still beating down on this turret, but they should have the damage to stop it from getting the crystal. At least Catherine is going to back away from that one, does not want to hand over the ace, but you could see ASN, they have the damage and the advantage, but you're right, they just slip up during these crucial moments when it comes to capturing the Kraken and ending the game out. And it's what we saw failed them in the first matchup between these two teams. ASN were playing it so strong, and then they weren't able to finish it out, and the team that had Baron and Celeste being Brenchong were able to get to that late game and turn it around on them. And right now, both teams have that late game power. So I don't see what's holding them back, because if you look at what I was about to mention before, the gold lead, 54.7k over to the side of ASN, and then obviously the kill feed being 19 kills on the side of ASN. And I mean, as we get further to the very late game, it really does come down to a singular team fight because of how long the respawn timers are. However, I would just like to see ASN maybe with a bit more map control, which is good to see what Tezzaboy is doing now, pulling down those crucial scout traps. But hopefully they're able to win the fight here and bring this to a 1-1 as they jump onto Mr. Jim, and it doesn't look like he's getting out there anytime soon. Afterburn up for another 3 seconds, and it's going to be Aeon finding that kill. There's going to be the block onto the Oblivion, and they're just going to push their way into the base this time. They had the man advantage, they had the damage output advantage at this point, and they're just going to siege the base of Brenchong, trying to push this into a 1-1. I'm not sure if there's anything Sensi1 can do about this on his own. He's trying to put the damage out. Martian, of course, looking for the stuns to help make it easier for Sensi1 to do so, but you can see how quickly these turrets are falling. Boy getting low, however. They might get one kill. There's the Divine Intervention coming out, however, and it's not going to go over yet. Still 7 seconds until Glaives up, and Aeon now making work on this Crystal Sentry. Chingy's still on the backline unchecked, and they should be up to have the game. That is game 2 going over to ASN with, and this is what they needed to shut it out. GG, well played. It's 1-1 between these two teams, but for some more analysis on this one, I will bring in guest caster Rubber Monkey to talk through with it with you, Luxura.
Hello, and that was an amazing game. Won't you agree, Rubber Monkey? I mean,